you can see here, it is absolutely fully covered. Hey guys, welcome back to Revolution XRC. Welcome to the next part of this TWS CTS VTR Kit build series. In this part of the series, we are going to add inner fenders. Now, the inner fenders come as a add-on, and this is the part. You can use this for either the VTR or the CJ7, which is now known as the VTG80. It's the same set, but you just cut it a little bit differently depending on which chassis you're building. So I've already gone and made the cuts for the VTR chassis, and I've painted it with PS5 black. See here, it's all painted and ready to go. So these are my inner fenders, and I'm ready to attach them to the chassis. To add the inner fenders to the chassis, you'll of course need to make the necessary cuts. I still need to make some of the cuts for the chassis servo mount, the CMS setup. You do have to make different cuts for the CMS setup versus the axle mounted setup, and you need 8 of the provided screws, which I believe are M3x5s. Now if you're running the chassis mounted servo setup, you will need to make the 2 cuts right here and here. And you can see it's because you need to fit the servo mount right there. Alright, we'll begin by removing the top of the shock mount. Definitely not my favorite part because it is hard to slide those in there, but it's got to be done for this step. Alright, looks like I'm going to need to ream holes for the screws. I'll get those done and be right back. Alright, to put the inner fenders on, they also want you to remove this plate as well. Okay, now my challenge is to put the shock body on as well as my magnet mount. So I'll have to screw in my magnet mount first, and then I'll put the shocks on. I think I'm going to do it off camera. It'll be a little bit easier for me, but when I'm done, I'll turn the camera back on and show you what I did. Alright, you can see here what I did to the front shock towers. I had to make this cut here because of my magnet mounts, and I had to make this hole in order to be able to screw this magnet mount in. So putting the shock back on was fairly difficult. It was pretty hard. I think if you're using body posts, you might be able to put this fender on without removing the shocks. But since I am using my custom magnet mounts, I did have to remove the shocks. But otherwise, I think you would be able to thread the body post through this hole right here. I'm not quite sure, but in my case, yeah, it wasn't really easy to put those spacers back in and put the shock in between those spacers up there. But I'm gonna go ahead and get the rear mounted up, and then we'll be right back. Alright, thankfully the rear was a little bit easier because you have more room to work with. but I was able to get the shocks mounted up, the rear tower mounted up. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to take the M3x5s and you want to start screwing in the inner fenders to the chassis. So you got one right here in the front. Just make sure it's lined up. There you go. You got one in the rear. Now the two places where you had the countersunk screws for this plate right here, you use the 3x5 button heads instead. I don't know if I made the holes look big enough. Alright, that is one half of the fenders completed. Let's go ahead and move to the other side. Basically, I'm going to repeat all the steps I did for this side. I'll do it for this side as well, and we'll be right back when I'm finished. Alright, I got the other side all attached and installed, and so far it looks pretty great. These are the inner fenders. You can see that there's a lot of coverage. Let's go ahead and put the body on and see how well this inner fender set covers the gaps. Alright, so you can see here this wheel well is covered. So is the front wheel well. So you see that there's no gap, everything is covered up, and here's the impressive part. On the underside, you can see here, it is absolutely fully covered, like 100% gapless. Look at that, all the way from side to side, front to back. It covers all of the gaps at the side of the body. So very, very impressive. You know, usually inner fenders, all I use them for is just to cover the wheel well, but this one actually impressed me with the full coverage that it gives you for this VTR body. So very impressive inner fender set from TWS for this VTR kit. Really happy with it, the way it came out, and I'm ready to move on to other things like the interior and other scale details. So that about does it for this part of the TWS CTS VTR Kit build series, adding the inner fenders. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and stay tuned for the next updates on this TWS CTS VTR Kit build series. Thanks for watching.